welcome back. It is time to meet some startups. I hope you all got a nice cup of tea or coffee, spent some time on our networking platform, and are now ready to start this competition. Just to recap, every team has 5 minutes to pitch, and we will closely monitor the time, and the presenter will get an alert towards the end of the 5 minutes. Should they run over, I will be strict and end the pitch. After the pitch, our jury panel has 5 minutes to ask anything they want to know. So jury, get your notebooks ready and don't forget to score right after the pitch. Presenters, good luck. Just know that we're all rooting for you. First up is AgenT. AgenT is developing the first blood diagnosis to detect Alzheimer's up to 20 years before dementia. The company has developed a neural network based on 25 biomarkers specific to Alzheimer's. And today, Baptiste Billoir will be presenting. I hand it over to you. Good luck.
Thanks. Hi, I'm co-founder at AgenT, and we're on a mission to detect Alzheimer's early when it could be prevented. Today, 50 million people are suffering from Alzheimer's. And without prevention, it will be 150 million in 2050. And the bad news is, by the time we detect the disease, it's already too late. With the current diagnostic tools, we detect Alzheimer's during the late stages, when the symptoms are irreversible. If we want to deliver meaningful treatment to the patient, like Biogen's aducanumab, we need to detect Alzheimer's during the silent phase, with thanks to a simple blood test. And that's exactly what we're doing at AgenT. To tackle this challenge, we've gathered a highly skilled team in neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and business, and we've signed research collaboration with international memory centers. So Alzheimer's progresses over 30 years. It starts with an asymptomatic stage where there is no symptom at all. Then it goes through a prodromal stage with a subtle cognitive decline, and at the end, the dementia stage. And for each one of these stages, the biomarkers in the blood are going to evolve differently. So if we want to identify these specific biomarkers, we need to have access to the brain, but at the same time to the blood. And it's not possible in humans during the silent phase. To overcome this challenge, we've used the first animal model of the silent phase of Alzheimer's. It has been developed by my co-founders, Dr. Jérôme Brodeau, during 7 years of research. We sampled the blood, we analyzed more than 2,400 constituents, and thanks to machine learning algorithms, we identified and patented 105 biomarkers. After that, we validated these biomarkers on 232 retrospective plasma samples from France and Spain. So we had access to non-Alzheimer's patients, so people with healthy controls and other dementia. And the second group was Alzheimer's patients from the asymptomatic stage, prodromal stage, and dementia stage. All of the Alzheimer's patients have been followed up to the dementia stages. So how does it work? We take a plasma sample, we analyze 25 biomarkers, and we run a machine learning algorithm to make the diagnosis. And during this first proof of concept, this algorithm achieved 99% specificity and 100% sensitivity. So the current diagnostic tools are invasive, expensive, and with a low sensitivity and specificity. And all of the competitors are only developing incremental solutions. We can detect Alzheimer's from the asymptomatic stage because we combine proteins and metabolites through machine learning. So currently, we're developing a blood test that can detect Alzheimer's from the asymptomatic stage with a high level of accuracy. It's minimally invasive and cost efficient. And the first market we're going to target is the pharmaceutical industry to include patients in clinical trials. The second market, the biggest one, will be the MCI population. So it's people with mild cognitive impairment, but we don't know if it's due to Alzheimer's or due to another dementia. And this market represents 16 million tests per year. They could benefit from Biogen's aducanumab drug. How we're going to address this market? We're going to partner with clinical laboratory networks like LabCorp in the US or Sabalscare in Europe. They're going to do the blood sampling and the analysis of the biomarkers. And we're going to sell them the machine learning algorithm to make the diagnosis. So the first market, we plan to target it in 2022, so the pharmaceutical one, and we plan to reach 14.1% of market share in 2027. The second market is the MCI population. We plan to target it as soon as we get the CE mark and the FDA approval in 2023, and we plan to reach 6.6% of market share in 2027. So to realize that, we are currently raising a seed fundraising of 2.5 million euros to first industrialize the test by developing the targeted MS protocol and training the algorithm on 750 samples from the US, Europe, and Australia. And the second step will be to do a final blind validation on 500 samples. So please join us in this incredible journey to defeat the disease of the century. Thank you.
Well done, Baptiste, kicking off these pitches. I would say, let's go over to the jury and see if they have any questions for you. Who would like to start?
Well, okay. So since I'm here on camera, nice pitch. Thank you. What is your clinical validation strategy for the next couple of years?
Okay, so first we have access to retrospective samples. So it's people that have been sampled up to 15 years before the current AD dementia diagnosis. So that will be the first clinical validation. So first, we're going to train the algorithm on 750 samples and do a final blind validation on 500 samples. So 250 samples of controls and 250 samples of Alzheimer's from all the stages, asymptomatic, prodromal, and dementia. And it will be with memory centers from all over the world. So we've got partnership with Stanford, Washington University in St. Louis, AIBL, which is a big court in Australia, Lariboisière in Paris, and Senpo in Barcelona. And after that, we plan to do a prospective study on MCI patients. So it could be MCI due to AD or another dementia on 4,000 patients during 4 years to validate in the prospective studies the test.
All right. Any other questions?
What is the, a very nice pitch, by the way, thanks. What is the treatment decision that you impact, and how do you expect that to affect the course of the disease and over what timeline?
Okay, so as we can see, Biogen is trying to get an approval for aducanumab. So we should know the answer of FDA by March 2021. And this treatment is intended for patients in the MCI stage. So it can slow down the disease, but if we prescribe the treatment in the MCI. So that's the first market we're going to address with the test, because we can say if it's someone with Alzheimer's and not another dementia. And it's very important if we want to target the right population that could benefit from this treatment. And after that, we will go through the asymptomatic stage. So from 50 years old, someone without any symptoms at all. And Biogen has already started a clinical trials for this patient with aducanumab as well. So we could, for example, target this population after.
Yeah, but so basically you will first have to go that stage. How long does it usually take? The five years, 10 years before then you can say, now I've prevented the onset of actual Alzheimer's?
Oh, no, you can already, for example, Biogen, their clinical trials, I think it was over 3 years. So you can say that in a short amount of time. That's why we plan to do a prospective study during 4 years on MCI patients after that.
One last question, if I may. You opted for a SAS model, but you said you have 105 biomarkers. How standard are these biomarkers?
Okay. So we patented 105 biomarkers, but when we've done the clinical study on human samples, we only used 25 biomarkers. This one is the most informative, so it's proteins and metabolites, and we are currently developing the targeted assay to quantify them. And so it's already, we've already talked with service providers, and we know that it's possible to measure them in plasma samples. So it's not exotic biomarkers.
Okay, thank you.
And so are you,
regarding your rollout and commercialization, it's quite aggressive. How do you intend to manage that process? Will you be doing this alone, or do you intend to partner it?
Yeah, we intend to partner with clinical laboratory networks. Like I said, with LabCorp, for example, we're already in talks with them, but also with Care. And that's why we can target this market as soon as we get the validation, because we're not going to do that alone.
Okay, so how will that impact on your revenue projections? Because you're going to have to give them a substantial.
So we still have to negotiate that, but yeah, yes, there will be a revenue sharing between them and us, and it will depend on the level of marketing we want to do in-house between them and us. So
there's time for one very short question, if someone has one.
Thanks, Baptiste. Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the competition you're going to have a market share of 14%. So what does your competition look like in early diagnostic, and what's your competitive advantage?
Yeah, so everyone right now is trying to develop blood tests that can detect the same biomarkers as we know, A beta or tau, but in the blood. And this, okay, it's minimally invasive, that's great, but it cannot detect Alzheimer's from the asymptomatic or prodromal stage with a high sensitivity and specificity.
Very quickly, Baptiste.
Okay, sorry. So we can do that because we combine proteins and metabolites, and they cannot do that because they cannot identify new biomarkers as we've done.
Okay, and with that, we have to conclude our jury round. Thank you so much for the questions, and well done. First one down, 2 more to go in this round. The jury will now have some time to put in their scores, write down some things so they can use that during deliberation later. Yeah, and AgenT is working on one of the things that we need more time for. We're too late diagnosing Alzheimer at the moment, and they're developing a solution to make sure that we can increase that time by almost 20 years. So 20 years earlier diagnosis for Alzheimer's disease. I'm sure that would change a lot of lives. We're going to our next pitch for today. Let's see. Amparo is up next, and they're revolutionizing the entire prosthetics industry by offering mobile fitting solutions. The disruptive product can be fitted to lower limb amputees anywhere in the world in less than 1 hour. Also, it's remoldable, so it can be reused, and that saves significant costs to health providers. Joining us for this pitch is Lucas Paz de Melo. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning, everyone. Let me take you through a journey that 1 in every 500 people in the world experience. Imagine you're in a hospital bed. You just left the surgery room. You look down and you see only 1 leg. Well, heart problems and diabetes have caused you an amputation. Could have been a car crash or a landmine. And there is one question that's screaming in your head. Am I gonna walk again? Well, for that, you need a prosthesis. And you wait 3 months for your brand new leg. In the first year, you need 3 legs. And why? Because your stump changes, especially in the first year, it shrinks. So it's gonna be a long year. And the longer you wait, the harder is your recovery. And that's when depression takes over. But why the heck does it take so long? You may think that you're not ready for it yet, but we know that early prosthetic use results in much better outcomes. The reason is because each leg is handmade. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of visits to get your leg. A prosthetic leg has 3 main parts. The foot and the tube, they're standard. The socket is unique. In a prosthetic clinic, they make a copy of your stump to create your socket. This process takes at least 2 visits. And in countries like Germany, you get your leg in 2 weeks. In the UK, 3 months. In Brazil, 1 year. And in Kenya, you don't want to know. But now, with Amparo, you can get your leg at your home in 1 visit, in 1 hour. That's the confidence socket. Our special material is molded directly to your stump. And if your stump changes, it doesn't matter. Our material can be reshaped to any stump changes. And all our tools fit in a sports bag. So now you get your leg at your home, in the office, in the hospital, anywhere in the world. Our business model is simple. We sell sockets and tools to clinics who make legs to amputees. And although it may cost a little bit more in the beginning, the material can be reshaped 10 times, saving huge costs in the end. And from the second fitting on, the clinic is already saving money. But don't just take my word on it. You can ask one of the 1,300 people who are walking on confident sockets. We're present in 30 countries, 16 of those with exclusive distributors and contract sales targets for the next 3 years. Ottobock is the main player in the industry and our biggest partner. Not only they're distributing our product across the globe, they have also adopted our technology as their main patient care service for recent amputees in their rehab centers. So, despite the pandemic, we're actually outperformed last year, and we're going to hit the mark of €500,000 now in 2020. And in next year, 2021, we're breaking even. So just to recap, Amparo is changing the game for prosthetics because it's fast, it's efficient, and it's a mobile clinic in itself. When I met Eric in South Africa, he told me, and I quote, "I want to work with my arms, not to walk with crutches. It's too difficult to work with these." And just like him, there are at least 9 million amputees worldwide who don't have modern prosthetics. So at Amparo, we're creating access to equality. In each leg, we're bringing the confidence for a fresh start. And for that, we're raising €4 million in order to develop our high-tech R&D facility so we can include more products in our product portfolio. We also want to automate our production to make it easier to decentralize it afterwards. And since sales are growing exponentially, we want to build distribution hubs in different regions to better and faster serve our customers. My name is Lucas. I'm just the face of an entire team who's absolutely passionate about what we do. We're experts in our area, and we're here to create a positive impact in the world. So join the revolution. Join us by providing mobility so that every single amputee in the world can live life to the full. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Lucas Paz de Melo, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Well within time as well. My compliments for the 2 pitches so far. I'm sure the jury has some questions for you. Who would like to start?
Hello. Yeah, thanks, Lucas, for the presentation and the pitch. Well done. Quick question, what is the material and what is the uniqueness and the IP protection around it?
So the material is a low temperature thermoplastic. We have developed this recipe with the Fraunhofer Institute. And we were advised by our IP lawyer that we should not make a patent on it, but rather treat it as a trade secret. Because, and also according to the Fraunhofer, the material cannot be reverse engineered. You cannot understand exactly the components, the elements in it, neither the proportions.
Who else has a question for Lucas?
Hello, Lucas. Thank you so much. I would like to know, how are you dealing with training with your partners to actually do the prosthetics at the customers?
Yes, so we do trainings in the regions where we're at, so DACH region, but also like other countries where we don't have distributors. So we have been done training like physically, we go to places, and the distributors are also responsible for that. But now, because of the pandemic and the online world, it gets more and more difficult to do that. So we are developing an e-learning platform. We already shot like 2 of the videos, and we're going to implement it by the end of the year to be able to do trainings also from a distance, and kind of a step-by-step guide where they would be tested in between modules so they can perform the fitting afterwards.
More questions about
Amparo? Yes. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you get your leg when you're staying at home? How does that aspect of your technology work? How do you transmit the data from your patient to your clinic? Or have I missed the point somehow? Or to the manufacturer of the actual prosthetic?
So this is how it works. We sell these cones, right? Yeah. And all the tools necessary to do the fitting, which includes a mobile oven. So we pretty much put the cone in the mobile oven. They use a heat gun, and then in 10 minutes, the material is already heated. And then we do some work in the material, and we do the fitting directly on the stump, and with a vacuum pump, we suck all the air, and it takes the full format of the stump. And
so you go to the patient, basically, is what you're saying. The actual machinery is available on site, in the field, as it were? How does that work?
So we sell our products. It's a B2B business. We sell to clinics who service amputees. So we don't do that, but we sell all the tools, and the clinic can take like the sports bag to the hospital and perform the fitting in place.
Right, okay.
I know that Todd, Fabrice, and Sasha have some questions, so let's start with Todd.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just curious, given the higher initial cost for the first prosthetic, how are you dealing with reimbursement in the EU and the US?
Well, in the EU, each country has their own reimbursement system, so it doesn't account for the whole region.
Right.
But actually every single country, they have different reimbursement values and for their patients. So in Germany, they have like what they call a Pauschale. It's like a fixed amount for recent amputees. And that also happens in all the other countries. It just varies the value of it. In the US, they also have it.
Right, but I guess are payers willing to pay it? That's my question. Yes. Is whether the coding in the US, for example, is covering your cost?
Yes, okay. It is.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Fabrice.
Yeah. So the tendency is to go much more high end and electronics in the prosthesis, right? So which customer target do you focus on? And then if it's low end, will they have the capability to mold and heat locally?
So it works like this: the higher technology that you use for different products, the less accessible they are. Because if you look at 3D printing, if you go to a developing country, then you need an expert to actually operate that machine. And also you're gonna need different kinds of knowledge. So in the end, if you want to provide access, we decided to go low tech. So our product is completely mechanical. Because of the remoldability factor of our product, it is really well suited for recent amputees. So the first prosthesis that you're ever going to receive, because the stump changes a lot. And in that first year, to have a remoldable socket, it's extremely helpful and saves a lot of money for the clinics. So for developed countries, recent amputees is our market. And for developing countries, actually everyone that doesn't have access currently.
Okay, I got it.
We have to conclude our round of questions from the jury. Thank you so much, Lucas, for presenting. Jury, thank you for your questions.
Thank you, everyone.
As said, and as we've heard, we're lucky here in Western Europe, but there's a lot of areas in the world who are not that easily to have access to wonderful prostheses if you need them. Amparo has a solution for that with their mobile solution to make sure that people can be fitted with a prosthetic leg in an hour. The jury will be scoring this pitch as well while we move on to our next pitch of this morning. Aortyx is a Barcelona-based startup developing a novel family of endovascular devices that allows for endogenous regeneration of the aorta instead of artificial replacements. And joining us today is Jordi Martorell. Go ahead.
And thank you, Anne-Marie. Aortyx is incredibly proud to have received the Alex Casta Award 2020. Alex was a leading figure in the European healthcare network, and he was a wonderful man. Sadly, he is no longer with us because he suffered from an aortic disease. The aorta is the largest artery in the body. It is like a river. Life flows through it. Sometimes a tear can break the aortic wall, and this is called an aortic dissection. It is extremely dangerous and has a mortality of up to 50% in those who suffer it. It can happen to the elderly, to smokers, to people with hypertension, but also to young people with undetected genetic diseases. Current treatments present severe limitations and must be replaced. In open repair, a synthetic graft replaces a damaged vessel. It is the preferred option by most physicians, but it is too invasive and patients die during the operation. Endovascular repair reduces this invasiveness by delivering the graft with a catheter, and this reduces mortality drastically. Sadly, the graft tends to fail over time and must be replaced, sometimes urgently, due to a mechanical mismatch between the graft and the aorta. Those patients too unstable to survive any type of surgery receive medical therapy, but their survival chances are too low. Last year, one of the worldwide pioneers in endovascular surgery stated that we urgently need innovative devices devices and that the companies are not delivering the required innovations. To solve this unmet clinical need, Aortyx was founded to change the paradigm of how aortic diseases should be treated. We, the founders, are a perfect combination of chemists, engineers, and one of the top 10 aortic surgeons in the world, Dr. Riambau. He is key for end-user requirements and promotes our progress in medical conferences around the world. We have invented and patented a disruptive device. It consists of a bioresorbable patch that navigates through the aorta, bends at the entry tear, adheres against the aorta, plugs the leak, and then initiates a local regeneration of tissue. We have designed the entire system, including the catheter, the deployer, the patch, and its adhesive. But these are not only drawings and photos. Our dream is becoming true, and we have already demonstrated in animals and in the lab that our solution can work. The patch adheres against the pig's aorta, and our adhesive is 10,000 times stronger than blood flow. The catheter and the deployer navigate through the aorta of a pig as smoothly as any endovascular treatment, so surgeons do not need to relearn anything. The patented microstructure of the patch assures two things. First, there is no mechanical mismatch between the pulsing aorta and our device. And second, the structure promotes aortic regeneration, and cells can easily climb on the patch and recolonize it. The future is exciting. We're now raising an 8 million euro Series A to complete the regulatory tests and start first-in-human trials. Our manufacturing scale-up is relatively simple, as we have already manufactured our prototypes with the final product suppliers. The funds will also be used to put in motion the quality management system that we have written. Once the first-in-human is successful at the end of 2022, we will do a worldwide multi-centric study and look for breakthrough device designation by the FDA to reach the American market in 2025. After, we will seek CE mark for Europe and subsequent approvals in Canada and Australia in 2026, China and Japan in 2027. We have already started contacting distributors to generate sales traction as soon as we get the regulatory approvals. Because the market is worth it. Only focus on aortic dissection, it will reach more than 550 million euros in 2025. And our technology will further evolve to treat aortic aneurysms for a combined market of more than $3 billion. We do have a profitable business model based on a better product, but also cheaper cost of goods. Our simplified manufacturing process guarantees a gross margin of 95%. Thanks to that and to our network of worldwide distributors, we'll generate sales tractions with an M&A exit in mind. M&A transactions, they are common in the aortic field. However, these solutions are barely incremental and far from optimal. Imagine the value of a real disruptive invention. If you're not an investor, live a healthy life to reduce the risk of suffering an aortic disease. If you are an investor, then trust us and support us to give a better life to aortic disease patients. In all cases, think aorta and think aortics.
Well done, Jordi Martorell. Let's head over to our jury and see if they have any questions.
Thank you for
what is the patch made of, and what makes it attractive for cells to grow on?
It's made of polycaprolactone, so it's a material that is already widely available in the market with stitches and sutures and things like that. But the key, it bioabsorbs, yeah. And the key is that we manufacture using electrospinning, and that confers the unique mechanical properties.
And how do you ensure the adhesive doesn't float into the blood, float away in the blood?
That's what all of our tests. That's what we're doing now. There's a lot of ISO tests to test the fatigue resistance, all these things, and that's what we're doing. That's obviously what must not happen.
I think Florian also had a question.
Yeah, so also on the technology, nice pitch, by the way.
Thank you.
But in your animation, you show this kind of dissection with a secondary pocket, but you still have this nice small hole with sort of a primary wall still intact. But my understanding is that these aneurysms are actually more of a bulge, and there is no more wall where you can attach things, or at least not a small, not a small hole. So you would really have to have a pipe basically that you reconstruct.
That's exactly what we do not do. No, so we are looking for dissection, and so it's clear that our first product is dissection, and in dissection there is this hole where we attach. Okay, aneurysm is our secondary market, and we're starting to develop drug delivery on the patch to stop small aneurysms to continue expanding. But in this case, our first product is for dissection, and what our goal is covering the entry tear to then start regeneration from there.
And how big is that, dissection only market?
So to make it to the hospital, it must be smaller than 2 square centimeters, more or less. And that's our goal. Our patch measures approximately 10 square centimeters, so it covers widely the whole. No, but if someone suffers from a dissection that is larger than these 2 square centimeters, it's harder they make it to the hospital.
I think I also heard Marian, am I right?
Yes, thank you. Could you elaborate a little bit about your regulatory way into the system?
Sure. So we are now doing everything which is preclinical, meaning we have the risk assessment, and we are tackling every ISO and regarding the risk assessment. And then after that, we'll go in first in human, about 10 patients here in Spain, hopefully by the end of next year or early 2022. And then we'll do a trail randomized study with 100 patients in different centers in the world versus with our product versus 50 patients with a gold standard. So a 2-to-1 trail randomized. And this will take about 3 years, we estimate, because we need quite a few centers and quite different populations.
Are there any regulatory issues associated with the actual catheter? Is that a class 2 or a class 3 medical device?
It's a class 3 because there is no class 4. So it's very intensive, let's say, the regulations. The catheter is the simplest part because it's a catheter that is used, for example, in the Aptus device from Medtronic. So the technology is very similar. The whole catheter part is actually quite simple, no, in terms of regulatory. It's more about the bioresorbable patch and the adhesive that obviously need more evidence, no, that it, as the other member of the jury said, that it doesn't detach, that it resorbs on time, all these things.
Okay, so one last regulatory question here. Is there a difference between your strategy in the US and in Europe? Because the regulatory requirements for these sorts of products are really quite different. And there are a lot of problems with CE marks, as you probably know at the present time.
And that's why, despite we're in a European company and a European competition, I state that we're going first FDA, because the MDR is right now, it's a bottleneck for a lot of companies. It's a bottleneck for super large companies. Imagine for startups, and that's why we're following, obviously, as parallel as we can to gather as much data from the FDA regulatory to bring into the CE marking. But these are obviously different, and we're first focused on, unfortunately, in the States, because it's in the end it's 40-50% of the market.
And that is 5 minutes already. Time flies. Thank you so much to our first 3 pitchers and the teams.
Thank you.